Trade your corporate shoes for sandals and your desk for a deck chair. This is the Casual Mondays podcast with Kevin Donahue, sharing conversations about the highs, lows, and all of the in-betweens, and helping retirees enjoy their brightest days.
There's a village in Okinawa, Japan, where people routinely live past 100. Healthy, active, purposeful. When researchers asked these centenarians the secret to their longevity, the answer wasn't diet or exercise, though those certainly mattered. It was a single word: Ikigai, your reason for being, that thing that gets you out of bed in the morning. And here's what stopped me cold. In the Okinawan dialect, there's no word for retirement. Because when you have Ikigai, you don't retire from anything. You retire to something. That something, that's what we're discovering today on the Casual Mondays podcast. Welcome back to the Casual Mondays podcast, the retirement podcast for honest conversations about the good, the bad, and all the in-between on retirement. Thank you for streaming the podcast. Your 5-star reviews, your comments, and voicemails mean the world to me as we're creating this community. If this is your first time streaming an episode, welcome to the Casual Mondays podcast. I'm Kevin Donahue, and whether you're planning your next adventure or still figuring out this whole retirement thing exactly, well, you're in exactly the right place. Let's dive in. On today's show, we're traveling virtually to the island of Okinawa, Japan. I want to apologize to the entire nation of Japan in advance, as there are some Japanese words that I am going to absolutely butcher today. Truly, truly sorry. Please forgive me. In fact, before I do any more damage to U.S.-Japanese relations, let's get the correct pronunciation of Ikigai. Hey, what do you know? This guy almost got Ikigai correct. Let me tell you about my friend Tom. Retired at 53, great pension, solid investments, the freedom everyone dreams about. The first month of retirement for Tom, paradise. He slept in, he played golf, he caught up on projects. Month 3, he played so much golf, he was sick of playing golf. All the projects were done, and he found himself at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday sitting in his kitchen thinking, now what am I going to do? His wife suggested volunteering. So Tom did. 3 different organizations, filled his calendar, stayed busy. 6 months in, he told me something that stuck with me. He said, Kevin, I'm busier than I ever was when I worked, but I've never felt more aimless. Tom had fallen into what experts call the activity trap. See, most retirement advice sounds like this: stay busy, volunteer, travel, learn to paint, join clubs. And that's not wrong, but it's incomplete. Because here's the truth: busy doesn't equal purposeful. You can fill every hour of every day and still feel empty. Let me say that again. You can fill every hour of every day and still feel empty. You can have a packed calendar and still wake up wondering, what's it all really for? And that feeling, that's what the Japanese concept of Ikigai addresses. Now, before we go further, let me acknowledge a few things. I am not Japanese. I haven't lived in Okinawa. But I've studied the research behind why people in certain places live longer, healthier, more fulfilled lives, as I've tried to put my retirement story together. And Ikigai keeps showing up. A gentleman named Dan Butner, the researcher behind the Blue Zones Project, if you're familiar with that. These are the 5 places in the world where people live the longest, found that all 5 zones share something in common: a sense of purpose. In Okinawa, they call it Ikigai. In Costa Rica, it's plan de vida. Sardinia, it's embedded in their culture of contribution, but the concept is universal. You need a reason to get up in the morning that goes beyond just passing time. People with strong ikigai live on average 7 years longer than those without it. And this isn't 7 years of frail decline, it's 7 years of active, engaged living. The Stanford Center on Longevity found that purpose predicts well-being more than wealth, more than health status, more than social connections, though all 3 of those matter greatly. Think about that for a second. Your sense of purpose matters more than how much money you have. So what is Ikigai exactly? The literal translation is reason for being, but it's deeper than that. It's not your job. It's not your hobby. It's not a passion project. Those can all be expressions of Ikigai. It's the intersection of who you are, what you offer, and what the world needs. It's what makes you feel like it's what makes you feel like your life has meaning beyond just existing. And here's the challenge for us in retirement. We've spent 40 years confusing our job with our purpose. Think about it. When someone asked, "What do?" You answered with your job title. You said, "Oh, I'm a sales manager." When you felt purposeful at work, it was tied to projects or promotion, recognition. Your career provided the structure, the goals, the feedback loop that made you feel like you mattered. Then you retire. And suddenly, 3 myths start creeping in. Myth 1, the goal is relaxation. Total myth. You have earned rest, absolutely. But rest is recovery, not purpose. After a month of sleeping in and doing nothing, most retirees start feeling restless because humans aren't wired for a permanent vacation. There's actually research on this from the University of Michigan. They studied retirees who embrace the endless vacation mindset versus those who found new sources of purpose. Within 6 months, the endless vacation group showed higher rates of depression and lower rates of life satisfaction. We need purpose, just like we need food and sleep. Myth number 2, you've earned doing nothing. This one's particularly toxic because it sounds so reasonable. You have worked hard. You do deserve to kick back. Heck, open a beer, have a drink, and relax. But doing nothing isn't the dream we thought it is or would be. The dream was freedom to choose what we want to do. Big difference. When Tom said he felt aimless despite being busy, what he meant was, I'm filling up my time, but it doesn't seem to matter, right? That's not laziness. That's a lack of ikigai. Myth number 3, your purpose was your career. This one is toxic because if you believe your purpose died when you turned in your identification badge, then retirement feels like a slow decline. I can remember at my alma mater, the legendary head coach Bobby Bowden, when people asked him when he wanted to retire, he said, I don't want to retire because what comes next? You just sit around waiting to die. And how sad is that? But that is an indication of someone's purpose being their career. But here's the truth. Your job was never your Ikigai. Your job provided structure around your Ikigai. And now that the structure's gone, we need to find what was underneath it all along. Maybe you were a teacher. Your job was education, but your Ikigai, maybe it was actually unlocking potential in others, just as legendary FSU coach Bobby Bowden did. That doesn't retire. That just needs a new expression. If you were in sales, maybe your job was hitting quotas, but your Ikigai, maybe it was solving problems for your clients. And that is still in you. It just looks different now. I want to offer you a warning sign to look for. You know that Sunday night dread you had before Monday? That sinking feeling of tomorrow, the grind starts all over again. If retirement starts to feel like a permanent Sunday, if you're relieved there's no Monday morning alarm clock, but you don't know why you're relieved, that's your signal. You don't need to fill your life with more activities. You need more meaning. You need more purpose. You need more Ikigai. So, how do you find it? That's what we're unpacking next. But first, a few housekeeping notes. If this is your first episode, you'll find all the links to our discussions, books, websites from today's episode in the show notes on your podcast app. If you can't find them or you want to share them with someone, I'll post them also on our homepage at casualmondayspodcast.com. You found us on your podcast app, but I also want to let you know that we're streaming with video on YouTube. You can find us on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcast. I mentioned previously that I love to hear from you and get you involved in the show. Just go to the casualmondayspodcast.com, join our Casual Mondays Club. That's where you'll find more discussions, some behind the scenes, some stories you've submitted, and links in your email about once a month. Sometimes I may not be once a month. Sometimes it might be every 5 weeks. Just depends on how my Ikigai is going. Lastly, if you want to share your story, please click record a voicemail on our website. It's incredibly easy. casualmondayspodcast.com. Click record a voicemail. You can do it with your phone, your tablet, your computer. We would love to hear your stories, your feedback, questions, and suggestions. Let's see. We have a voicemail today. This is from Ron in Oklahoma City.
Hi, this is Ron from OKC. Thanks for the podcast and focusing on more than just investments, taxes, and Social Security. I think you've got the right idea to focus on what you're retiring to. No one ever had that conversation with us, at least not with me, back in the day. I think I went into a funk after I retired because I didn't know what to do with myself. That's hard for people, and you feel emptier when people around you are wanting you to be happier. It's a big deal, and I'm really glad you're talking about it. Thanks for the show, and looking forward to what comes next. Bless you and your family.
Thank you, Ron. Greatly appreciated. Always great to hear from those who are benefiting from the podcast, and I appreciate very much your perspective that this sort of show wasn't available previously. Hopefully that's a void we're filling. As a token of thanks for leaving a voicemail, we are going to send you, Ron, a lifetime premium code for the Retirement Success Graph app on iOS. I wrote that app to bring analyst level analysis to your phone without surrendering your data or paying an annual subscription. The purpose of the app is to stress test your retirement plan against 100 years of U.S. economic and market data, score your plan, and give you simple suggestions for improvement. Retirement Success Graph, Retirement Success Graph is free on the Apple App Store, and we'll give you a premium code worth $5 to every one of you leaving a voicemail on our website at casualmondayspodcast.com. All right, that's it for housekeeping notes. Let's get back to our Ikigai. I want you to imagine 4 circles. Each of the circles overlaps, and all 4 overlap in the center. Many of you will be familiar with this concept as a Venn diagram, the overlapping circles. And you've probably seen them before, especially if you worked in a corporate role. If you're not familiar, I'll put an example on the screen right now for YouTube, and I will add an example in the show notes. Where all 4 of these circles intersect, that's your Ikigai, your reason for being. But here's where we need to adapt this for retirement. The traditional model was designed for life purposes and careers, and we're working with something completely different now in retirement. So let me walk you through the 4 circles, retirement edition. Circle 1, what you love. Not what you loved 20 years ago, not what everyone thinks you should love, what genuinely energizes you now. The question to ask yourself is, if money and obligation completely disappeared, what would I do? And I don't mean lie on a beach forever, because we already established that gets old after about 3 weeks and a little sandy. I mean, what activity makes you lose track of time? What conversation topics light you up? What problems do you enjoy solving? Let me give you an example. Sarah was a financial analyst for 30 years. She was excellent at it, made VP, led teams, the whole track. When she retired, everyone assumed she'd consult or do financial planning. And at first she thought that's what she would do because that's what everyone was telling her. But when we spoke, if money and obligation disappeared, what would you do? But when we spoke and she started to think about her purpose with money and obligation being no commitment, she said, I want to teach, but not finance. I want to teach people how to understand their money so they're not intimidated by it. I spent 30 years in boardrooms talking about millions of dollars, but the conversations that energized me were always the ones where someone finally got their but the conversations that energized me were the ones where I helped. But the conversations that energized me were always the ones where I helped someone finally get their 401k. Turns out Sarah loved empowering people through finance. She didn't love finance itself. That was just the vehicle. So circle 1 isn't what's your career, it's what lights you up. And here's the key. This might surprise you. You might discover you love something that you never had time for, or something you really weren't good at. And here's the key. This might surprise you. You might discover you love something that you never had time for, or something you were good at but never valued because it wasn't your job. Circle 2, what you're good at. 40 years of skills don't disappear when you turn in your ID. But here's the trick. We need to separate what I'm good at versus what I was paid to be good at. Your transferable skills versus your corporate role. Maybe you were a project manager. Corporate role, managing timelines and deliverables. But the skill, seeing big pictures, moving coordinated pieces, keeping people accountable without being a jerk. Those skills don't retire. I was in luxury hospitality for 25 years. Was I good at filling hotel rooms? Sure. But really, I was good at understanding what people needed before they knew they needed it. Building relationships and creating experiences that mattered. Those skills showed up in my career. They show up in this podcast. They'll show up in whatever I do next, because circle 2 is about honest inventory. What do I actually bring to the table? And here's the sneaky way to identify this. What do people ask you to help them with? Not in your job, but in life. What do friends call you for help with? What does your family rely on you for? Maybe people always ask you to help them think through decisions. That's a skill. Maybe people ask you to organize events. Maybe people ask you to fix their iPhone or edit their resumes or recommend a wine or calm them down when they're anxious. That's usually where your real skills live. The things you do so naturally, you don't even think of them as skills. The American Psychological Association has done research on what they call signature strengths, the abilities that come so easily to us that you assume everyone must have them. They don't. Those are your gifts. Okay, we've got 2 circles. Circle 3, what the world needs. Okay, we've got our 2 circles. Circle 3, what the world needs. Now, don't panic. We're not talking about solve climate change or cure cancer or any of those things. The world in this context means your world, your community, your family, the people in your immediate orbit. It's the gap between what exists and what could exist that you're uniquely positioned to fill. Maybe your neighborhood needs someone who organizes. Your grandkids need someone who listens without judgment. Your former industry needs someone to mentor the upcoming generation. One retiree I know, his name's David, noticed his community had no gathering spot for older adults who didn't want bingo night, but wanted true intellectual conversation. So he started a philosophy club at the library. First week, 4 people showed up. Now there's a wait list and they're on their 3rd year. He didn't save the world. He filled a gap that he noticed. Circle 3 is about looking around and asking, what's missing that I can contribute? And here's what's beautiful about this. You don't need to look far. Again, Stanford Center on Longevity's research found purpose in aging. Again, Stanford Center on Longevity's research on purpose in aging found the most sustainable sources of purpose are local and relational, not grand global, but real needs you can address with people in your neighborhood. Circle 4, what can you be rewarded for? Okay, this is where we need to make a critical retirement shift, because in the traditional Ikigai model, rewarded usually means paid for or recognized for. But in retirement, that's optional. Some of you are going to go on and do encore careers where you get paid. Great. But most of us won't. And that's also great, because in retirement, reward can mean fulfillment, the feeling that I matter, or recognition, someone saying, thank you, that helped me so much, or seeing the impact of your contribution, creating new relationships through your purpose, internally, growing, learning, and developing. When David started that philosophy group, his reward wasn't money. It was seeing people light up in conversation. It was gratitude. It was friendships formed. It was knowing he created something that didn't exist before. In New York, the University of Rochester research on self-determination theory distinguishes between extrinsic rewards, so money, status, recognition, and intrinsic rewards, meaning growth and connection. In your career, those external rewards drove you, had to. You needed the paycheck. In retirement, intrinsic awards can be enough. Sometimes they're even more satisfying. So ask yourself, what reward am I actually seeking? If it's a paycheck, fine. There are ways to monetize your Ikigai. But if it's fulfillment or contribution, that changes everything about what's possible. So we have our 4 circles. And again, these are in the show notes so you can take a look at them and really spend some time thinking about them. But where all 4 of them overlap, that's your sweet spot. What you love, plus what you're good at, plus what the world needs, plus what you can be rewarded for. That overlap is your reason for being. And here's the beautiful part. It doesn't have to be one thing. You might have multiple Ikigais. They might evolve over time. Your Ikigai at 55 might be mentoring professionals. But at 70, your Ikigai might be teaching your grandkids about woodworking. Both are valid and purposeful. The Japanese Ministry of Health has studied this for decades, and people with strong Ikigai have lower rates of cardiovascular disease, better cognitive function, higher life satisfaction regardless of income, greater resilience through transitions. These are things that we all strive for. There was a Harvard study which has followed people for over 85 years, found the same thing. Purpose matters more than wealth when it comes to your happiness. So if you're sitting there thinking, I don't know my Ikigai, good. That means you're being honest. Most people don't find it in a lightning bolt moment. It's cultivated, which brings us to how. Here's why all that find your passion advice fails. It assumes passion exists fully formed, just waiting to be discovered, like it's buried treasure and you just need the right map. But Ikigai isn't found, it's cultivated through experimentation, reflection, and small adjustments. Stanford's research on growth mindset applies here as well. People who believe purpose is something you develop are more likely to find it than people who believe it's something you discover. One is active, the other is passive. So let's talk about a practical exploration process, and we'll call it our 3-month Ikigai experiment. Not because you have it all figured out in 3 months, but because 3 months is long enough to see patterns without maybe feeling overwhelmed. So month 1, a curiosity audit. Spend 30 days paying attention to your attention. Here's your assignment. List 10 things that make you lose track of time. Notice conversations which energize you versus drain you. Ask yourself, what did I love at age 12 before life pressure hit? That last one is powerful. Before you had to be practical, before you had to make something of yourself, what was your calling? Sometimes our Ikigai was there all along, just buried under this decades of adulting. Keep simple notes on your phone. When something sparks your curiosity, just write it down. not for any specific reason, just notice it. Maybe it's a conversation with your neighbor about gardening. Maybe it's the article you read about architecture. Maybe it's helping your friend think through a career decision. No judgment, no analysis, just write it down, collect the data. MIT did a study and found that awareness is our first step towards intentional change. Makes sense, right? You are sweaty and you notice that you smell. The first thing you do before you can fix it is notice what's happening. So here we want you to notice what's happening. You can't design purpose until you know what actually energizes you. Month number 2. Now, we're doing inventory. Career skills without job titles. What are you good at? What do people ask you? What are you good at? What do people ask you to help with? What comes so easily to you that you're surprised everyone can't do it? That last one matters. Often our greatest skills feel so natural that we will dismiss them. Oh, anyone could do that. No, they can't. That's your zone of genius. Write it down and be specific. Not, I'm good at leadership. Try, I'm good at seeing what people need before they ask and creating space for them to succeed. See the difference? One is a corporate buzzword. The other is an actual human intelligence skill. Do this exercise with someone who knows you well because we're often blind to our own strengths. Ask them, what do you see me do easily that others struggle with? Their answer might surprise you. Month 3, we're going to do a need exploration. Now we're looking outward. What frustrates you that you could fix? What gap do you notice that others don't? Where do you see potential that's not being realized? Again, we're not saving the world. It's about noticing, this thing could be better, and I could probably help with that. One retiree I know, his name is Michael. He noticed that his town's history was disappearing as the older residents passed away. No one was doing anything to document their stories. So he started recording oral histories, just simple interviews with longtime residents about what the town used to be like. Small project, huge impact. Now the local library has an archive. Schools use it for history projects, and Michael has a reason to get up every Tuesday morning. That was his Ikigai emerging. The University of Michigan's research on purpose in retirement found the most meaningful purposes start with noticing, not with grand plans, with paying attention to what's needed. Before we move on, I feel like I need to say this clearly. You don't need to find the one Ikigai. You have permission to have multiple purposes. You have permission for your Ikigai to evolve. You have permission to try something for 6 months and decide, nope, that wasn't it. This is not stone tablets. This isn't a life sentence. It's experimentation. Your Ikigai at 55 is allowed to look different than your Ikigai at 75. That's not failure. That's life. In fact, the National Institute on Aging, found that people who remain adaptable in their purpose age better than those who cling rigidly to one definition of meaning. So give yourself permission to explore, to try, to pivot. Let's take a moment and we'll be right back. Okay, we've done the exploration. We've got our emerging ideas. Now what? Here's where people stall out, crash and burn. Okay. It's turning that discovery into a daily practice. Every morning before you check your phone, you dive into the day, ask yourself, what small thing can I do today that serves my Ikigai? Not what monumental purpose will I fulfill today? Small, daily, aligned. If your Ikigai is mentoring, maybe today you send one encouraging message to someone starting their career. If your Ikigai is creativity, maybe today spend 30 minutes on your project, not finishing it, just engaging with it. Small, consistent alignment beats occasional grand gestures every time. Your Ikigai isn't something you do on weekends. It's something that's woven into how you live. Let me give you three common patterns I see. You might be one or all three or none of them yet, and that's fine. Archetype one, the mentor. Your Ikigai sits at the intersection of what you're good at and what others need. You've got skills, experience, perspective that others lack because they're earlier in their journey, and you help bridge that gap. An example of this might be a former executive who coaches small business owners. Maybe they're paid, maybe they're volunteer, but they give a few hours a week. The impact? Absolutely immeasurable. Sarah, our financial analyst VP who became this, she now teaches free financial literacy workshops at the community center. 2 hours on Thursday morning. That's her Ikigai. Number two, the creator. It kind of sits at the intersection of what you love and what you're good at. You make things, you build things, you write things. The act of creation is your purpose. For example, maybe you created a podcast when you retired to speak passionately about helping others and lifting others up in their retirement journey. I'm not pointing fingers, but there are people like that. Third, the connector. Your Ikigai sits at the intersection of what others need and what you love. You bring people together. You see relationships that could benefit all parties and you make them happen. For example, a retiree who organizes all the neighborhood events, who starts the book clubs or creates spaces for connection. Time commitment, episodic, but very high impact. David, with his philosophy group, is this. He creates community. That's his Ikigai. The American Psychological Association's research on motivation and aging shows that people often have multiple sources of purpose, and that's actually healthier than a singular focus. So you might be all three. You might shift between them. That's richness. That's encouraged. Here's the key. Ikigai isn't separate from your life. It's woven through it. Your day might include a morning walk for health, a mentoring call for purpose, a creative project for fulfillment, family dinner for connection. Each can serve different aspects of your Ikigai. None of them require a 40-hour-a-week job. This is the beautiful shift from career to retirement. It can be integrated throughout your days, your weeks, your years. Tom, remember him? The guy who felt aimless despite being busy? Here's what he discovered his Ikigai was. Helping people think clearly about complex decisions. For 30 years, that showed up in his work as a consultant. Now it shows up in mentoring young professionals, in serving on a nonprofit board, in being the person his friends call when they're stuck on a big decision. Those things occupy maybe 10 hours a week of Tom Structured's time, but it's woven throughout his life, and he no longer feels aimless. You don't need to quit retirement and start a new career. Just need to weave purpose through the life you're building. Okay, here's your homework. And yes, I am calling it homework because this truly matters. Take out a piece of paper or open your notes app on your phone. Draw 4 overlapping circles. Label them what I love, what I'm good at, what the world needs, what I can be rewarded for. In each circle, write 3 to 5 items. Don't overthink it because first thoughts are usually the true thoughts. Then ask yourself, what appears in multiple circles? Those are often your strongest leads. What surprise showed up that I hadn't expected? What experiment could I run this week to test one intersection? That last one is crucial. This isn't just a thinking exercise, it's a doing experiment. Pick one small thing, test it, see how it feels. Maybe you think your Ikigai involves teaching. Try offering to help someone learn something this week. Creativity. Spend 1 hour this week creating anything. If it involves connecting people, organize a gathering, even if it's just coffee for 2 friends. Small experiments reveal big truths. Your Ikigai isn't something you find in a moment of clarity on a mountaintop. It's something you cultivate through small experiments, honest reflection, and course correction. The Okinawans don't have a word for retirement because they never stopped having a reason to wake up. What's yours? In our next episode, we're taking your Ikigai and building a daily structure around it. Creating structure without the 9 to 5, because freedom without rhythm is just chaos in disguise. But structure without purpose is just unpaid work. Once you know your why, your Ikigai, we're going to learn how. That's what we're tackling next on the Casual Mondays podcast. I'm Kevin Donahue. Your reason for being is out there. Or more accurately, it's in you. Let's find it.
Thank you for streaming today's episode. For more from our conversation, you'll find links and resources in the show notes. If you would like to join the show, record your story as a voice message on our website at casualmondayspodcast.com. You'll also find our Casual Mondays Club newsletter on the website, with behind-the-scenes notes, suggestions, and previews delivered to your email inbox every month. As always, be sure to click subscribe in your app so our future episodes are available automatically. And help us connect to friends and colleagues by giving a star rating on your podcast app and sharing on your social network. This has been the Casual Mondays podcast. Until next time, keep it casual.